Good evening, Cedar Falls, and welcome to our regular City Council meeting for Monday, January 20th, 2022. I will now call this meeting to order with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Schultz.
Here.
DeBoer. Here. Cruz.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Sires.
Here.
Dunn. Here. All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just as a matter of housekeeping tonight, I was advised by a resident that they couldn't hear me on the Channel 15 very well because of the mic distance. So I'm moving mine forward and just ask council members to also please speak into your mic tonight so that everyone at home can hear us well. So with that, I'll take approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 6th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda revisions tonight?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have a special presentation tonight, so that'll move us over to public forum, where speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in public comment for 5 minutes maximum? Yes, Ms. Beach, name and address for the record, please. Sorry, that was me earlier.
Got it. Rosemary Beach, Sage Road, Cedar Falls, Iowa. I want to know if I can speak on something that has nothing to do with what you've done tonight now, and then come back when you get to one thing on your agenda.
You're welcome to speak here on as long as it's related to city business, and then speak also during the item itself. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yes.
Yep, so it's totally fine to do both times. If you
Okay, I just want to welcome you to Sturgis Falls, and I think this is a good place to do it. We haven't been able to do it for a long time, really up to snuff, and I think Jay's got a great event for us to come to. I simply want to tell you, besides that, we have a representative from Sturgis, Michigan, who is a real Sturgis, and she's going to be here, and she's going to spend 4 days seeing what the heck we do over here. And their celebration is the same weekend as ours for their Sturgis ancestor. So I think Jay's going to introduce her on the evening when he introduced dignitaries and people down on Elverman Park. So I just want you to come, have a great time. Tom and Judy and I did it some almost 50 years ago, and we had a good time, and it's grown like Topsy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Does anyone else wish to speak on public forum on a topic related to city business? Seeing none, then I'll close the public forum tonight and bring us over to our special order of business. That's item 2, a public hearing on proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 Seal Coat project. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that does pass. And Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications filed?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For staff comments tonight, we have Mr. Dave Wicke, City Engineer. So, Mr. Wicke, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor. City Council, tonight's public hearing is for the 2022 Seal Coat project. What this project consists of is seal coating 16 street sections, multiple single-lane drives with within 3 cemeteries and 1 parking lot, with a total coverage of about 51,000 square yards of work. Work includes preparation of the surface base and then application of the seal coat itself. Total estimated construction cost for this project is $207,000. Project is funded by the local option sales tax and the street construction funds. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wicke. With that, do we have anyone from the public who wishes to speak on the Seal Coat project tonight? Seeing none, then I will consider the public hearing closed and move us over to Part E, which is a resolution approving and adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 Seal Coat project. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Open for council discussion. Or any questions? Okay, seeing none, then it's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz.
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
Ganfield.
Aye.
Sires.
Aye.
Dunn. Aye. Schultz.
Aye.
DeBoer. Aye. All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So moving this over to Part 3, since that's approved. Part 3 is public hearing on the proposed plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 University Avenue Biocells project. Is there a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So move.
Motion and second. I apologize for that. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that does pass. And Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications for this item?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. So then we go back over to Mr. Wiki for comments on this item from the staff.
Okay, once again, thank you, Mayor, Council. This public hearing is for the 2022 University Avenue Biocells project. Project consists of furnishing and installing 4 bioretention cells along University Avenue corridor. It includes placement of 6-inch diameter storm sewer subdrains, 4 modified storm sewer intakes, subdrain cleanouts, curb and gutter replacements, and then engineering soil placement, and in addition to that, native plantings. The total estimated construction cost for this project is $103,000, and the project will be funded by the stormwater funds and the Dry Run Creek Watershed Improvement Project funds, which is in the form of a grant that was awarded through the DNR Watershed Improvements Project in the amount of $76,985.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wiki. With that, do we have any public comments on this item? It's the 2022 University Avenue Biocells project. Seeing none, then I'll consider this public hearing closed and bring us over to Part E, which is a resolution approving and adopting the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 University Avenue Biocells project. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion and seconded. Any further council discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, then it's been motion and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz.
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
Gamfield.
Aye.
Sires.
Aye.
Dunn. Aye. Schultz.
Aye.
DeBoer. Aye. All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That takes us over to old business, where item 4 is passing ordinance 3012, amending Chapter 24 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances relative to stormwater rates upon its third and final consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Open for council discussion. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, then it's been motion and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz.
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
Gamfield.
Aye.
Sires.
Nay.
Dunn. Aye. Schultz.
Aye.
DeBoer. Aye. 6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I'm going to ask council just to stand at ease for a moment. I think I left a document over in the podium. Okay, thank you very much. So back on the agenda, our next area for discussion is the consent calendar, where these items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or the public requests that a specific item be considered separately. So does any council member request to pull an item from 5 through 12? Okay, seeing none, does anyone from the public wish to pull an item 5 through 12? Okay, so I'll read those items. 5 is receiving and filing the Council Standing Committee minutes of June 6, 2022. Item 6 is receiving and filing resignations of members from boards and commissions. Item 7 is approving recommendations of the mayor relative to appointment of members to boards and commissions. 8 is receiving and filing the appointment process for boards and commissions, CFD 1201. 9 is receiving and filing the Cedar Falls Resilience Plan. 10 is receiving, filing, and approving the FY23 cash management report. 11 is approving applications for tobacco, cigarette, nicotine, and vapor permits. And then item 12 is approving applications for beer permits and liquor licenses. It's been motioned, is there a motion to approve these items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so those do pass. And that takes us over into the resolution calendar, where these items will be acted upon by a roll call vote without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or the public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Does any council member request to pull an item 13 through 39?
Number 14, Mr. Mayor.
Number 14 for Simon Harding. Okay.
Number 13, Mr. Mayor.
13 for Councilmember.
And number
Sires?
30, please.
Okay, so 13 and 30 for Councilmember Sires. Okay. Any others from council?
13 and 30.
Okay, so those have already been called, so we're in good shape there. Any others? So, does anyone from the public wish to pull an additional item apart from 13, 14, and 30? Yes, we are. Okay, so we'll pull item 29 for Ms. Beach. RB. And any others? Okay, seeing none others, then I'll read those other items here and then bring us back to 13, 14, 29, and 30. So 15 is approving and authorizing execution of an engagement letter with, I think it's Ide Bailey, to perform the audit of the city's FY22 financial statements and compliance with federal award programs. 16 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an administrative services agreement with Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield relative to the employee health plan. 17 is resolution approving a stop-loss policy with Wellmark Inc. relative to the city's FY23 employee health plan. 18 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a joinder agreement for group term life insurance relative to group term life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment insurance. 19 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of Amendment 3 to joinder agreement for long-term disability insurance with National Insurance Services Trust. 20 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a client authorization to bind coverage relative to renewal of the city's public entity insurance for FY23. 21 and 22 are resolutions approving and authorizing execution of agreements for wrecker towing and storage service with L&M Transmission and Rasmussen Towing. 23 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of 2 lease extensions relative to the use of 224 West Saley Boulevard as an artist studio space in conjunction with the Hearst Center's Visiting Artist Program. 24 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a cooperative agreement for use of swimming pools with the Cedar Falls Community School District. 25 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement in support of the College Hill Partnership relative to an FY23 Economic Development Grant. 26 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement to support economic development program of Community Main Street relative to an FY23 Economic Development Grant. 29 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement to support economic development in the Cedar Valley. Yes,
We're skipping 29. Or that's separate.
we're not there yet.
Oh, I thought.
We're at 27.
Oh, okay.
Apologize.
The 29, I'm sorry.
So 27 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement to support economic development in the Cedar Valley with Grow Cedar Valley relative to an FY23 Economic Development Grant. 28 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an FY23 Facade Improvement Fund agreement with Cedar Falls Community Main Street. 31 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a repair contract with Tojo Construction for a CDBG and CDBG CV1 owner-occupied repair project at 700 West Ridgeway Avenue, Lot 435. 32 is a resolution approving the final plat of West Viking Road Industrial Park Phase 5. 33 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a pre-construction agreement for a primary road project with the Iowa DOT relative to Highway 58 Hudson Road resurfacing project. Item 34 is a resolution receiving, filing, and approving and accepting the bid of Owen Contracting in the amount of $1.5 million, being the only bid received for the Center Street Corridor Streetscape project. 35 is a resolution approving and accepting the contract and bond of Owen Contracting for the Center Street Corridor Streetscape project. 36 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of 3 owner purchase agreements and approving and accepting 3 temporary construction easements, 2 warranty deeds, and 1 public utility easement in conjunction with the Olive Street Box Culvert Replacement Project. 37 is a resolution receiving and filing and setting July 5th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on the proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Olive Street Box Culvert Replacement Project. 38 is a resolution receiving and filing and setting July 5th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on the FY23 FFY22 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Consortium. And 39 is a resolution setting July 5th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on proposed amendments to Chapter 26, zoning of the Code of Ordinances relative to Planning and Zoning Commission review of site plans. Is there a motion to approve
Mr.
those?
Mayor,
Yes.
can I pull 39 also, just so I can ask a question on it?
Does any council object? Okay, yes, you can pull 39. Okay, so strike 39 from this list of omnibus review. And so we'll pull that separately. So is there a motion to approve these items minus 13, 14, 29, 30, and
Motion
39?
to approve.
Second.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Gamfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
all voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So that takes us back to item 13, which is a resolution approving the recommendation of the mayor and city administrator by appointing Craig Birdie as the Director of Public Safety Services. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and open for council discussion first, or council questions, and then we'll go to public questions discussion, then back to final council discussion. So, Councilmember Sires, you brought this up for
Yes.
consideration, so
Yes, I
the floor is
did.
yours.
And I'm not going to tarnish Craig Birdie's reputation in any way. I think he's done a fine job for our city of Cedar Falls for many years. As council members, we should be entitled to help select the PSO chief. Now, only 2 of us were involved in that, and I believe it's such a powerful position, and I believe it has the biggest budget. I truly believe that the citizens that we represent should have their input. I was not allowed to take any part of it, have any input in any way. I had asked administration that maybe we could look for a headhunter, and the headhunter would charge $25,000, and maybe Chief Birdie would have come out on top. I would just like to say that that's one of the most powerful positions in this community, and we need to be careful who fills that. I like Craig Birdie. I just want the best for Cedar Falls. He may be it. I would like to see that we move forward. I'm not still beating the dead horse of having a separate police and fire department, but now I would like to have somebody with true experience in the PSO system so we can have the very best community that we could possibly have. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I would just note that for tonight, this discussion certainly is the council's deliberation. I don't want this to be considered as something where you have to say yes. I mean, if there are concerns, this is the final say. The council has that authority. So we do want to be very careful about individual dignity and things like that. But if there are questions, if there's a need for discussion, this is that time. So with that, any other council questions or comments starting?
I would say I have full confidence in Birdie as however we would have went along the route to find the replacement for Mr. Olson. He certainly has got the commitment to Cedar Falls, and I find a lot of value in that as far as not having alignment with the understanding of the PSO. He grew up with it. He's been there for every step. So I think that is a huge contribution there of his knowledge and leadership there. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to start, and then I'll open it up for public comment. Okay, seeing
Mr.
none. Yes, Councilmember Canfield, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to go on record and state, too, I've also visited with Acting Director Birdie, and I really appreciate the conversations and the job that he's been doing. I do have some concerns about our model and the discussion to come during goal setting. And I'm not convinced yet that this is the position we need to hire at this moment. So knowing that we do have that council discussion yet to come, I'm wondering if it's an opportunity to extend the temporary acting assignment in the moment. Is that something that's a possibility until we've discussed it goal setting?
What's on the floor currently is a resolution approving the recommendation of the mayor and the city administrator by appointing Craig Birdie as the Director of Public Safety Services. So we would need to keep the topic tailored to that. So other aspects of if you want to encourage members not to appoint anyone, you can certainly do that. Well, you could attempt to do that, but then we would bring forward another candidate. So it's not really on the floor unless council were to change direction. It wouldn't be an option to simply not fill the position. Does that make sense? Okay. So other questions or comments from council before I go to the public? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment if anyone wishes to speak on this appointment recommendation and consideration. Okay, seeing none there, then bringing it back to council for final comment. All right, so it's been motioned and seconded for the resolution approving the recommendation of the mayor and city administrator by appointing Craig Birdie as the Director of Public Safety Services. So motion and second, and it requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Canfield,
Nay.
Sires,
Refuse.
You are not allowed to refuse.
I believe I am under Rule 55, duty to vote. I can refuse to vote.
Only if there is a conflict of interest. Any vote not taken by a conflict of interest will be voted in the negative.
I would like to ask Kevin Rogers for an opinion.
Rules of procedure do state that council members are to vote on issues presented to it. However, the rules also contemplate if a council member refuses, that person shall be considered to have registered vote in the negative. So that's where we are, I think, right now.
Okay, so that's registered as a no vote, Madam Clerk? And we continue?
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
5 voting aye, 2 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and congratulations, Director Birdie. Moving on to item 14 is a resolution approving and adopting a job classification for the position of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist in the Human Resources Department. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Councilmember Harding, you had brought this out for a separate consideration.
Yes, I did. My question was, in the memo, it stated that we were looking for someone that had 3 years of human resources experience, but then in the job classification, it said 3 years of human resources or human rights experience. So I'm assuming that the job classification takes precedent over the memo, but I just wanted to make it clear that was the case. Correct?
Correct. The job class would take precedence. That was actually an item that actually Mayor Green had brought forward that we kind of compromised on of could it be either or. So that's where that was driven from.
Okay. I like that it has the flexibility there, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
And part of that discussion was staff was concerned if there was like opening or was time available, could we then use that specialist for general HR duties? And they wanted to have that as an option. So I was okay with that, going that approach, but I also didn't want to risk bringing someone in who only had HR experience and didn't have DEI experience at all, and then we not really have an effective person for that position. And so with that discussion, we cleared that up.
Good. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council starting out? Okay, does anyone from the public wish to speak on the item? Okay, and then bringing it back to council. So if this is approved, what would be the next step then? I guess for Director Rodenbeck?
Sure, I'll start. If actually our human resource manager, Bailey Schindle's here too, so she can add in if there's anything else. So our next step would actually be going to civil service and having that on in terms of approving it as an entry position, we'll start an ad, and then we'll just start going through the civil service process where people will need to apply, get on a certified list, that,
Okay.
so.
And if approved tonight, then what would be the timeline? Are you looking at July for that to open and start with the civil service process, or is there a delay required for some reason?
Nope, we'll be starting right away doing that. So, yep. So hopefully, maybe we can get someone on board 2 to 3 months, maybe.
Excellent, thank you. So, is anyone else, or is anything for the council going forward? Okay, seeing none, then it's been motioned and seconded to approve and adopt a job classification for the position of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist in the Human Resources Department. This motion second requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Ganfield,
Nay.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeBoer.
Aye.
6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So then it takes us over to item 39. No, excuse me. I'm missing a page here. Item 29. So item 29 is a resolution in support of the College Hill Partnership's Light Up College Hill Plan and grant application to the Destination Iowa program of the state of Iowa. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. So Rosemary Beach had asked a question or wanted to bring this brought forward. So does the council have any comments before she comes forward? No. Okay, then Ms. Beach, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Rosemary Beach, Sage Road, Cedar Falls, Iowa. And I was reading the Courier today, bless its heart. It does have lots of stuff in there to still read, and I'm always glad to read the Register and the Cedar Valley Courier. I read the article on lighted arches could adorn College Hill, which was very new to me until I read that I should have known about it because somebody is talking about it for 2 years. And I am a person who has been on College Hill for a long time, and Bob's been there for a long time. And so I was interested in the partnership wants to put up, well, if it's similar to what looks in the paper, it's like a big gate over each end of College Hill. And I looked at that and I thought it reminds me a lot of areas I've seen, like in Chinatown in San Francisco, that draws attention, which I didn't know if I wanted to look at that particularly. And especially since I have been most vocal about wanting to save the Searly House on College Hill, and thinking of all these things that you're going to be asking for money from and about and could be used, what we could do with the Searly House as a welcome center to College Hill. I look at that house and I thought the other day, wouldn't it be fun, those flag things, fly feathers, and to put all those in its front yard for all the students that come here of different nationalities. What a great place to advertise College Hill. And yet we're putting up 2 entrances to it that I don't know are going to make a lot of difference. I'm glad that you're looking at College Hill and want to improve it, and it could stand a lot of uptick. There's no doubt about it. But I really wish the money and the interest from the city and from the people participating would take a better look at saving something historically important to our community. And so I'm here tonight. I'm not saying you shouldn't put up two big arches. I'm saying, look what you're not taking care of. You're not taking care of the history of your community. It's not really the history of you and I. It's the history of your community. So I want you just to reread this and see if you could find a way to maybe work together with the university.
So Ms. Beach, I'm going to have to ask
Okay.
for the item are you in favor or opposed to the plan?
I'm well, to ask me what was I in favor of doing?
We would like to know for your opinion.
My opinion
on
is
this
they
item.
ought to be saving the Searly House and not
And that's
putting
not
this.
related to what we're talking about here
Okay,
tonight.
then don't listen. Okay?
Thank you. So does anyone else wish to speak on a resolution in support of College Hill Partnership's Light Up College Hill Plan and grant application to Destination Iowa program of the state of Iowa? Yes, Mr. Martin, name and address for the record, please.
Right, thank you. My name is Chris Martin. I live at 421 West Searly on College Hill, and I'm the vice president of the College Hill Partnership. First of all, I'd just like to say I appreciate Rosemary Beach so much, and I appreciate her interest in historical preservation on the Hill. It's certainly an interest of mine as well, and an interest of the College Hill Partnership. Just to clarify a little bit, what we were asking for is just a resolution of support from the Cedar Falls City Council for the Light Up College Hill project. It's an application, the plan and applications for Destination Iowa funding. So there's the state has federal funds up to $100 million. You may have heard of it. We're looking just for a very small portion of that in this grant application. So there would be no funding from the city, no funding from the university. So, and I certainly wish there were other piles of money for historic preservation on the Hill. So I'm completely in agreement with Ms. Beach on that part. So what we're looking for is to make very briefly, two entrance arches. That would be at the top of the hill near the College and 23rd Street, and at the bottom of the hill near the intersection of 20th Street, actually very close to Pedersen Plaza, which is something that's going to be talked about later today, or actually is on the list in terms of the extension of the Olive Street box culvert project. So we're trying to tie that in and the whole business district of the Hill and make the Hill a more desirable destination. And in doing so, naming the College Hill and making it more celebratory and festive with lights. So that's the point of this item on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. And I mean no disrespect to Rosemary. I just have to be very careful to keep the topic on track for what is before us on the agenda. And I do grant a little leeway from time to time, but I have to be careful to keep us on track in the meeting. With that, is there any other council or public comment on this item? Seeing none, any from council?
Mr. Mayor, I know I say this a lot, but I feel like you can't say it too much. When people ask me what the best part about Cedar Falls is obviously there's lots of great things, but the best thing, and if you come from a rural place where things are not as, where there's not as many folks, our volunteers are our best thing. So I want to thank again the people who give their time over and over and over again, in this instance to the College Hill Partnership, for making things happen. And that's it. I'm excited for anything great that happens on College Hill. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, it's worth noting that the president and or chair, vice president of College Hill Partnership, as well as all the board members, are unpaid positions. So they're here from their love of College Hill, and very happy that we have this opportunity to support them tonight. So with that,
Mr. Mayor,
oh yes, please.
just a quick question. Will this come back to us if the grant gets approved? Or is this our only time we'll have this in front of us? Because I know I asked earlier, wanting to clarify on the height of the arch to make sure that it didn't impede any traffic.
Okay, yeah, so for staff, will it come before council again?
So yes, it would have to actually come before council for an actual site and design.
Okay. Would that be through the Planning and Zoning Commission first, or straight to council?
Nope, planning and zoning would handle mostly on private property. This would be in public.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that answer your question, Councilmember DeBrey?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So with that, it's been motioned and seconded for a resolution in support of College Hill Partnership's Light Up College Hill Plan and grant application to the Destination Iowa program of the state of Iowa. Motion and seconded, and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Canfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeBoer.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that takes us over to item 30, which is a resolution approving and adopting the Cedar Falls Resilience Plan. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And just for clarification, earlier in item 9, we received and filed the Cedar Falls Resilience Plan. That was simply to enter it into the record that we have received the project and it's complete, and we can pay off the consultant who built it for us. What'll be discussed now is whether the city council will adopt the plan as a action tool for us to work through. And so it's important that we have that distinction, that as a receive and file, it sets greater direction for council that rather than putting this thing on a shelf, this is something that we want to actively pursue. And so that's why we're having this as a separate receive and file item on top, or excuse me, a separate approve and adopt on top of the receive and file. So with that, it was brought up by Councilmember Sires, I believe. So if
Yes.
you'd like to start us off, sir.
Yes, I would. I'm good with the receive and file. We need to pick through this and figure out what's perfect for Cedar Falls. Just to go ahead and adopt everything that's in this, I don't think is the right way to go. We've received and filed it, and then at goal setting, we can pick through it and figure out which ones we actually do want to adopt and go ahead with. That's all.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Dunn.
on that comment, we just because we receive and adopt, or because we adopt something, doesn't mean every aspect of that's constantly going to come back before council. It just means that staff knows the direction that this should be looked at and put into place, I believe, when there's opportunity. So every single thing comes back to council again. So it's not just a wash, it's just knowing, staff knowing that that is direction from council by adopting it. As long as I'm talking, I'm repeating myself, but resilience is important for so many things. It's important, I think we think of the environment part of it, and obviously the environment is very important, but when we think about economic impacts and what would happen if, look at the derecho, look what that did. I mean, and these things, they happen more frequently. So we need to have a plan. The world constantly changes. It's good to be prepared. And to me, that's what the resilience plan is. And it's also a compilation of hours and hours and hours of our community coming together. Really smart people. Like, we're so lucky in Cedar Falls to have the brains and giving us their time. So I am very much for adopting this plan and knowing that everything always comes back in front of us. It's just that it's there as a I guess importance to staff to know that this is important as we move forward into the future.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. Before we go to Councilmember Harding, for Mr. Gaines, can you tell us what you see as kind of like the difference or the marching orders if we just were to receive and file it and leave it as that, as opposed to approve and adopt? What for staff is the advantage of having that approve and adopt in terms of your workflow?
Really, I think what it is is when the council receives and files and adopts something, what it does is give the direction to the city staff as, hey, this is really the direction we would like you to go. We want you to look at all of these things. Ms. Dunn is right or correct in the aspect that any of the topics that would come before you would come back in some type of, whether it's a budget item or it would come back before you in a project for all to be considered again and approved or voted up or down.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember Harding.
Yeah, I think I think that the semantics of adoption is interesting, and I used to be a lot more against adoption, but as I've been on council more, I've started to see that there are some benefits in adoption. I do agree with Councilmember Sires about I would really like to visit this at goal setting, though, because there are definitely things that we could talk about out of this document that we would want to go with before others, or what's feasible for what we're doing down the line. I think adopting a resilience plan is incredibly important for Cedar Falls because any business coming to Cedar Falls is going to want to see, especially a business that's bringing large employment, they're going to want to see housing assessments and resilience plans and what we're doing. So this falls in line with where I feel like strongly we need to go. And the last thing I would say about adoption is that, I guess I don't have a last thing. I thought I did. I might think of it again, and it was the most
back.
important thing. I just started meandering the wrong way.
You get two chances
So
to speak.
I
so
get
you're
two
okay.
chances based on admin policy 7. All right, I'll remember it, but
Mr. Mayor.
go for it.
Yes, Councilmember Schultz.
So I'm all for being prepared, and I agree that we had some great people working on this and putting us in position to know what our strengths and weaknesses are. But that's the question. Mr. Gaines, we adopt this. What's the first 3 things you're going to look at? That's a rhetorical question, because there's dozens and dozens of things in here, and we're not really giving you any direction. We're just throwing the whole thing at you and say, here, let's work on this, and not giving you that direction from the goal setting and saying specifically, is it our concern about losing power? Is it our concern about, floods? Is it concern about the environment? What is exactly our concern, and what direction should we give you?
Sounds like a rhetorical question.
Well,
Yes.
Mayor,
Tiger, would you
if I could jump in just a
Certainly.
little bit on that. As the council has staff look at different plans, whether they're some type of a strategic plan or a plan looking at major thoroughfares or whatever those plans are. And we always look at those, and those are the individual topics that you do prioritize during goal setting. Those are the individual projects or budget items that you do identify during goal setting and say, hey, we think these go to the top of the list. But there may be 100 items in that plan, but there's 3 or 4 that are obviously going to rise to the top. And sometimes it's opportunity. Opportunity with regard to grant opportunities or opportunities as a certain project comes to town. So there's just a variety of issues on how things end up floating to the top.
I remembered somehow. Last 2 things, and I'll leave it at this. I understand your concern, Gil, with what direction. As I've learned and worked with staff, I have seen that the adoption allows them to incorporate these options and these ideas into plans, and gives them the flexibility to know that council wants them to just look at it as an option. But this one example comes to mind of the bike plan and map that we actually just adopted. The newest one years ago when I first got on council, we were under the 2015 adopted version, and that stated that there was going to be a bike lane put in on 18th Street. And we adopted that. It was actually adopted before I was on council. But we didn't do that. We decided against it because of other reasons. So I guess I'd throw out that point to see that we utilized that adoption, we looked at it, but then we realized we couldn't do that. It wasn't feasible because we would lose too many parking spaces. The road wasn't wide enough. So that's a good example of us taking an adopted document yet not following it. Other things we utilized from it. So I think it provides flexibility and the ability of staff to say, hey, we can incorporate this aspect of the resilience plan into a project we already have going. Or we can get a grant and we can do this, and they can bring it up to us. Without us adopting it, they have to wait for us to go through and nitpick it through at goal setting and say, let's look at this, this, and this. So it's a little bit more of a proactive approach.
So by adopting it, I don't know if this is a question for Mayor or Mr. Gaines, are we under obligation to address every single item in there? Or do we make a decision like down the road, this was relevant in 2022 and 2024, it's not relevant anymore? Or do we still have an obligation to that?
I'll take it, Mayor.
Okay.
I think, as I've stated many times, the council has the opportunity all the way through a project. you will adopt a concept, and then you'll have potentially the final design, and there's the plans and specs and the contract. Really, that's kind of the last opportunity that you have. So most projects of any size, the council votes on multiple number of times, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, depending on the project. So there's a lot of different opportunities for the council to say, you know what, I don't think this is the right direction.
Right. Also, there are some items in the plan, and it's really what the nuts and bolts of this is on. It's 4 pages from page 62 to 65 in the council packet, and that's the action list that is in the report. And in it, there's one thing that I'm really concerned about in it, and that's pursuing incremental advancement towards zero waste by 2070. I don't know how we'll get there. Zero waste. But one, it's like almost 50 years away that they're looking to reach it, and there's a lot of technology that'll happen in the meantime. But I think it's really important for us to set that standard. And the same thing with the carbon neutral by 2050. That's something I question. Are we really going to be able to get to that? But if we don't have something in the plan now to say that we're committed to pursuing that, then what's the point? It's not something for a goal-setting topic because it's so long-term. And CFU provided a letter to us, thanks to Steve Bernard, the general manager, and Mayor Beth Sonison from the Board of Trustees, that says CFU's strategic plan also shares the goal of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. So I personally think that adoption is very important because it's not just city actions that are short-term, they're long-term, and they're also going to require a lot of engagement from community partners. So if the city isn't going to be the leader on this, no one is. And that's why I believe it should be passed. Councilor Dunn.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll take my second time here. Okay, the other thing is we are not a growing state. And so, I know everyone here works hard. I don't want this to come off as anything that's negative towards anyone. But if you are in the trenches right now, working in anything that requires people, so for instance, obviously, I'm in healthcare. There's probably not a single person in this room that has not needed healthcare at some point in their life or will need healthcare. We need humans here in the Cedar Valley and in Iowa to work not only to replace the people that we're short on now, but the people that we continue to lose every single day because one of our largest generations is retiring. People are not flocking here. That's evident by our last census. I think at Cedar Falls, we were blessed to grow by 3%. That doesn't replace what we're losing every single day. So my point is Councilman Harding's exactly right. When companies look to come here, they're looking at what our plan is. They need humans to be here. If we don't have humans to work here, companies are going to be like, hey, we're out. So I guess what I'm getting at is I always think of Cedar Falls as one of my good friends always says we're the most progressive, conservative community in the state of Iowa. And we are. Like, we don't just jump in things. We think about things. But we're progressive. I mean, it's evident. Look at CFU. I mean, what's the best? There's so many good things about Cedar Falls, but CFU is pretty great. And if you've ever moved out of the area and come back, let me tell you, it's the best thing going in there and signing back up for your utilities. So I guess I'm rambling, but we've got to think for the future. We're not always going to be here, but hopefully somebody's here. And again, I just want to, I think we've said it over and over, but I guess this is kind of like a guiding document, right? I mean, it's not every single thing is going to happen, but it's what we should strive for and what we should think about as we move forward. And as a person who, I always say one of my best strengths is I know that I don't know everything. So again, I'm grateful for the people who have taken the time and the councils past that have said, yeah, let's do this, to have this in front of me, because it helps me as a decision maker to know and learn, and I believe it helps our staff, and anybody can pull from this document, right? It's public record, so it's really for our community as a whole. And so I'm rambling, but there's my last little 10 spiel.
All right, thank you. Yes, Councilor DeBerg.
We did receive and file this, which I think was the correct action to do, to receive and file it. I do want to note that it includes items about the schools, UNI, CFU. I think there's even mentioned Blackhawk County, all entities that are not under the city control. And because of all those other inclusions that we do not control are reasons that we should really be hesitant about doing the adoption. But instead just use it, receive and file it, and use it as a working document.
Other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
I would concur with Councilors DeBur and Schultz. It's a great guiding document. The trouble I have with is the unknown costs down the road. During planning and zoning presentation, it was said that this would be 5 to 10 year project, and with modern technology and all the things going on, we have no idea what's going to change and what's new coming down the road. And we have it here as our document. The work has been done. We can refer to it easily and bring forward the 3 to 5 or 7 different topics or whatever we want during goal setting. Discuss the intended consequences or the unintended consequences. And for that matter, anytime through the year we can bring something forward. It doesn't have to be just at goal setting. So I think receiving and file is great, but I would not be adopting it in full because you got this big giant ball rolling down the hill, just like in Indiana Jones movie in the beginning, and it's just something you don't divert or stop or change. So
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Ganfield.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that I think there are many good points and directives in the resilience plan. And I do believe that many of those things should be accomplished by private enterprise rather than just the city government being on the hook for it. Just a different approach there. I think approving and adopting today could put the city on the hook for things that we're not ready to tackle just yet and potentially waste staff direction and focus on things that we're not ready to move for. So I guess I would recommend filing this as we have and continuing this discussion at council goal setting to get a refined consensus on what we want to focus on, and would reiterate that we could bring forward items from this plan should we need to move more quickly on them. I'd be in favor of moving to postpone the vote till after goal setting discussion has completed.
Is that a motion to amend or to postpone?
To postpone the resolution until goal setting. Yep.
So,
I'd second that.
motion and seconded to postpone approval or consideration of approval of the document. So is this, Mr. Rogers, is this a voice vote of 5 or 4?
Simple majority.
Simple majority, okay.
It's an amendment.
Okay. So motion to postpone potential approval of this item. Any council discussion of, or is it debatable? I don't recall.
Yeah, amendment is.
Okay, great. So yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
Sounds like a neat idea, but we're going to have the exact same dilemma put in front of us at goal setting. Somebody said there's like 64 topics in there or action items. Come November, we'll have 100 and some to discuss at goal setting, action items. I think if we just receive and file and use it as needed and bring forward 3 to 5 to 7 things at goal setting, be the appropriate way to go. So I'm not in favor of postponing the vote.
Okay, so not to postpone or to postpone consideration. Any other comments from
Mr.
council?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
I agree
Cyrus.
with Mr. Cruz. I think that we will have a lot of things to discuss at goal setting, and we've received and filed it, and then we'll pick out of it from there.
So is there, it's been motioned and seconded to postpone to after
Mr.
goal
Mayor?
setting. Is any additional comment? So Councilmember Ganfield?
Yeah, I just want to see, as long as we can bring the items that we want to discuss at goal setting, then we don't need to postpone it. Until then, I would be okay with removing my amendment.
So amendment is withdrawn by the offerer. Takes us back to the original item. So what we have on the floor is a motion to bring up the actual language. So approve and adopt the Cedar Falls Resilience Plan. I'll just note on here too, my final comment, since I have that privilege as presiding officer. from looking at this and from actually reading through the resilience plan, we are already doing probably 2/3 of these. Many of these items are continue to maintain balanced and equitable policy, develop mixed-use, bikeable, walkable neighborhoods encompassing existing commercial corridors. Cedar Falls Utilities has quite a number of items that we're already working on. I see no harm in taking it as a approve and adopt. I think it sends a very clear message to the public without tying the city down. And I certainly would promote for the concern of some council members that we need to be careful how we set the priorities. If we give direction to staff tonight, and I can give that direction as mayor, to say, if this item is approved, don't pursue additional actions on this or until we decide a priority list at goal setting, except to work on, if there are items that already are low-hanging fruit, just continue working on those. I do have strong concerns about our ability to attract new industries and new business for the kind of community that we are, and by doing just a receive and file, if that is in the paper and it's looked at by potential businesses to see the kind of community we are, I would have concerns about that, and I'll leave it at that. So it's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
This item was pulled separately for discussion. I don't think the public's had
Oh,
an opportunity.
you are right. Thanks for the point of order. I love that. So I would love to have public speakers for this item. Thank you very much. I should have gotten that sooner. And then I will offer a chance for council to have comment again, since that's
Hi,
standard
Hannah
procedure.
Chrisman, 820 West 12th Street. I just wanted to echo what Kelly had said. I think as the public, I see this document, and I am the president of the College Hill Partnership. I can look to this document and also use it as a guiding document for our organization. I can use it as a guiding document as a citizen. And knowing that the council continues to perceive this as just a receive and file, that takes away some of my confidence that I should utilize this document and continue to do the work that I can to attract businesses to College Hill, or that I can, use my time to volunteer for different commissions. So I would really encourage those of you that are on the fence to approve this. I don't think it is telling the council that you must do something or telling city staff that they must do something. It is a guiding document. I think we all see that. But having your vote of approval shows us that you are taking this seriously, that these are things you want to work towards. And it appears you already are. So I think you should approve and continue to focus on moving Cedar Falls forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chrisman. Anyone else wish to speak on this item from the public? Yes, please, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Maria Perez, 915 Bluff Street. So I really appreciate all of your time reading through the document or letting staff get the document done. I want to make a disclaimer. I'm a staff person that was involved in the document, but I'm doing this comment as a citizen. So just take my comment not as a staff person, but as a citizen. I have 2 little kids. My main concern has been sustainability always. And not just environmental, but sustainability has the economic and the social part to it. This document, as you said, we have done a lot of the things. We're in the way to do that. But I do want the city to be a leader, and not just for our own community, but Waterloo, Waverly, Hudson, all these cities around us can take this document and look at things that they can do to be resilient as well. Because I really think if we're resilient as a city, we're going to help others to be resilient as well, and we're going to get a better state. I do understand the concerns, but I think they have been clarified. You're going to have a chance to vote for each of the actions that will come. And the concern from Mrs. DeBoer about other organizations, this is not telling anyone what they have to do. It's just a guidance. I know CFU is already doing a lot of the things, and they're one of the main partners. But I think it does send a signal to everyone that resilience is important, that environmental, social, and economic, looking at economic things are important. And saying that it's just going to be filed, to me, as a citizen, it seems that you're just giving the idea that resilience is not important to you. Again, you will have the time to comment on each of the things. So for me, as my little kids are here, and as we worried about environmental, social, and economic issues every day, I would say, please adapt it for my kids. I'm originally from Colombia. We don't have any of this. We don't have the chance to have the money and the resources that you have. And when my kids go home, they don't like the smell of the air because of the air pollution, and they don't like to look at the creeks. And it's sad to see so many homeless people. And that's just a show of what this country and these places, like we have so many resources to make it better for everybody else. We're all nature lovers. My husband is a fisherman, and no more, he totally cares about the rivers and the streams. And what I'm trying to say is, this plan is for everybody, for us, for communities around us, for animals, and it's not telling us anything. It's not telling us to do anything in particular. It's just telling us, hey, let's take care of each other. So I just want that to be the message that we give to others within the community, and I ask you to pass it for that reason.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Does anyone else wish to speak on the item from the public tonight? Yes, Ms. Yates. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Carol Yates, 519 Chateau Court. I worked with the other people on the Resilience Committee, and we had a lot of input from all of Cedar Falls, many, many citizens. And I just want to point out, especially for you, Councilman Schultz, that in the plan...
Please keep your comments directed to the chair.
Okay, that in the plan, it carefully lays out near-term things that could happen, mid-term things that could happen, and long-term ideas that could be used in the community to make it more resilient. And some of the ideas are ongoing. And you might consider those as you look forward to decide what you want to do. Those would give you some guidance, which is what is the purpose of this whole plan, to help you continue doing what you're already doing. As the mayor said, there are many things that are already happening in Cedar Falls and through Cedar Falls Utilities. So this is a plan to continue what Cedar Falls is already doing. Thank you for considering it.
Thank you, Ms. Yates. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on the resilience plan? Okay, seeing none, then I will bring it back to council for any final comments. Okay, seeing none. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. And let me just make sure I have it exactly right, even though it's short. Where's that paper? So there's a motion approving and adopting the Cedar Falls Resilience Plan. Motion and seconded, and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Nay.
Harding,
Aye.
Ganfield,
Nay.
Sires,
Nay.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Nay.
DeBoer,
Nay.
2 voting aye, 5 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So that fails and takes us over to item 39, which is a resolution setting July 5th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on proposed amendments to Chapter 26 zoning of the Code of Ordinances relative to Planning and Zoning Commission review of site plans. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And Councilor Dewar, do you have a question or comment on the date?
Yeah, it was my understanding there might be 1 or 2 of the council reps missing at that meeting, and my fear, if this was something on the P&Z from the downtown zoning, if we disagree with P&Z, we have to have a supermajority or 5 votes, which might be difficult if 2 people are missing. Am I correct that there might be 2 missing at that meeting, and that there might be votes?
So if you are planning to not be at the July 5th meeting, raise your hand, please. So 1, 2, and then I will also be absent. So Pro Tem will be leading the meeting.
I'll be here.
So,
Mr. Mayor, could I
Yes.
make an amendment to move this to July 18th council meeting?
okay, July 18th. It's been moved. Is that legal for us to do? Okay. So
Second.
it's been moved in second and open for council discussion.
I guess just based on what was just said with absentee council members and Mr. Mayor yourself, it'd be prudent to discuss it when everybody's here.
Okay. So any other comment?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, please, for
If instead of changing the date to make sure that we get all of the notification requirements, it may be better to pull this item and then re-put it back on the 5th to set the public hearing date, if the council would like to do that.
okay. So
Mr. Mayor?
yes. Good.
I guess if we debate the date on the 5th, there'll be less people here than we have now. We have a full council here now.
So this is just to set the hearing date.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to set the date as the 18th. I don't know, I don't see that presenting a problem. This was going to be talked about in August or September, so, I mean, am I missing something?
Yeah, the notice dates will be okay.
Okay.
We're just making sure that we're meeting the legal requirements of the notification.
So is there a concern of doing it too early then? Like having this notification tonight for a meeting that would occur a month from now?
No, what would happen is you set the date and then we would send the notice for publication to meet the publication window.
Okay,
So you're just setting the direction of when you want to hold it.
right. So are we, to Councilmember Cruz's point, are we okay then legally to move forward tonight with setting that date? Or do we need to pull the item and have it reconsidered? Or have it considered on the 5th?
So the motion on the table is to amend setting the July 5th as the date of public hearing to July 18th. That's what's on the table right now.
Correct.
Correct.
Just changing the date.
And so we have to provide notice of the public hearing, which that hasn't been submitted yet. So we wait and time our notice and publication to accommodate that. Now that we've talked through it, no problem.
Okay, great. So motion and seconded to amend the date to July 18th, and we need to approve that amendment first. So if no other discussion, then it's been motion and seconded to change the date to the 18th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes and takes us back to setting a resolution setting July 18th as the date of public hearing on proposed amendments to Chapter 26 zoning of the Code of Ordinances relative to Planning and Zoning Commission review of site plans. Any final discussion on that? I guess not much discussion to have. Okay, so motion and seconded and requires, or actually for public, any comments on this? Okay, it requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Canfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeBoer.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that takes us over to item 40 for ordinances. This is passing ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Motor Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances relative to prohibiting parking on portions of South Lawn Drive upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And any council questions or do we have a 30-second infomercial on what this is, or do we need one? Does council need to hear? Explanation?
I'd like to.
Okay. So for Mr. Wiki, if you could just give us a brief introduction on what this ordinance would entail.
Certainly. So this come to staff through residents that live in the vicinity of South Lawn. And what it is on the east side of South Lawn along the corridor, it's all no parking except for this one small stretch. And so this ordinance aims to just clean up that corridor and make it consistent with the no parking along the whole east side there within the limits that's shown on that attached exhibit. So it's just it's just to make it consistent and add additional no parking signage. So that whole side of that corridor is consistent with no parking.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
So yes, Councilmember Cruz. Go ahead.
So that was instigated by the residents with a petition, apparently.
We received notifications from some residents that had concerns about parking in that area. So we looked into it and we investigated it, and it just made sense to us to make the rest of that area no parking.
Okay. So any other questions or comments? And does anyone from the public have questions or comments about this parking change? Okay, seeing none, then back to council for final thoughts. Seeing none. So it's a motion and seconded to pass an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Motor Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances relative to prohibiting parking on portions of South Lawn Road upon its first consideration. This requires a roll call vote.
Cruz.
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
Ganfield.
Aye.
Sires.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
DeBoer. All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And is there a motion to approve bills and claims for June 20th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any council discussion? Any from the public? Okay, motion and seconded, and it requires a roll call vote.
Cruz.
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
Ganfield.
Aye.
Sires.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
DeBoer.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And do we have any council referrals tonight? Seeing none. Do we have any council updates tonight?
I do.
Mr. Mayor, oh, sorry.
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
And obviously, I know you'll call me out of order if I am, but just for like an educational piece, when something gets received and filed, it doesn't go away, right? It's there forever. And if there was a time that a future council, if someone made a referral to bring that back, it could be up again for adoption. Am I correct?
The only rule that I'm aware of is, and it's a gentleman's agreement, that failed ordinances and actions will not be brought up within 6 months.
Sure.
Apart from that,
Sure.
it could be brought up
But,
again.
you know, like similar to the chicken debate and things like that, if there's a future council, you know,
It could even be
obviously-
this council, as long as it's
Well,
over
exactly,
6 months.
exactly. I just for public, you know, I just wanted to take a minute for maybe some public education because I would have appreciated that. So,
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thanks for the clarification. Yes, there's another comment?
Yeah, me.
Yes, Councilmember Dipper.
I noticed we had some Boy Scouts here from, it looks like Troop 44, and I just wanted to make a point of welcoming them and thanking them for staying.
Next time you have to sing.
Any other updates? So, seeing none, then staff updates tonight, Mr. Gaines?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's been a lot of discussion that we've had here in the last number of weeks. Council passed the ordinance for allowing fireworks for July 3, 4, and 5, and with some of the conversation, I've asked Acting Chief Howard to come up and give an update on some of the enforcement that we've had going on with the fireworks, to basically year to date.
Yes, please. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, right after the 6th, when the new ordinance was voted in, Public Safety immediately started our educational campaign. We learned by speaking with our partners in Waterloo that it was an important part. As far as law enforcement goes, we were asked to do a zero tolerance enforcement. To do that, you know, we have to educate, and that became a big part of our first step. So by the next day, we had over 50 intersections that have now signs at them, just informational signs. We've spent over $2,100 of our budget just on signs, advertisement. We did a 5-minute YouTube video that runs on Channel 15, where the director and I are speaking about some of the new parts of the new ordinance. We are working with vendors. This is an example of the handout that vendors will be handing out every time they sell fireworks in Cedar Falls. It's very informational, both sides, and it really lays out what the new ordinance is. I think the biggest part of our educational part is just letting people know we're not going to have, we're not going to tolerate fireworks use outside of that window. So that was a big part of the beginning of it, and then starting actually June 1st, under the old ordinance, we started random enforcement, where I had people come in like a special enforcement team, and we would work late into the late evening hours, doing nothing but fireworks calls if we had any. Otherwise, we were working neighborhoods, driving around in neighborhoods, and that included myself. During that time, it was usually myself, 2 officers who were in on overtime, and then 2 on-duty firefighters. Every night that we've done this, I've had 2 on-duty firefighters working with us. They were out in police cars doing fireworks enforcement. I believe it was suggested that that wasn't happening, but that's happened every night we've done this. Basically, just so everybody knows, their bags go on the trucks, their fire bags. If there was a fire call, they would proceed directly to that fire from wherever they are. So their priority was still fire, but they're out enforcing fireworks. So do it during June. We've done it several times during June, both before and afterwards. As far as the enforcement part, we've done a total of right at 60 personnel hours of extra enforcement. That's not including police on duty. That's police I've brought in, plus myself. And then, like I said, every night we've used 2 firefighters that were on duty. We've got more plans. We intend, as the month turns and we get closer to the 4th, I will have people out every night doing the exact same thing. So the educational part was really important to us. We wanted to make sure people understand. And I heard this said in Waterloo, and it's exactly what I've told my people. 5 minutes after 10 o'clock on the 3rd and the 5th, somebody lets off a firework, it's a citation. I think what people need to understand is that $375 comes with a civil penalty of $95. That second offense is a $500 fine, again with a civil penalty. And then that third offense is $1,000. So we really want people to use the window that's given. I've gone back, I've looked at the statistics from the last several years. They almost mirror each other. We really see the uptick starting next week, week after next really, in calls. And then really by July 6th, it disappears. Up to this point, since January 1st, we've had 17 calls for service out of close to 10,000, 17 calls that are based on fireworks. Since April 29th, when this discussion really started for us, we've had 13 calls. Correction, 15 calls, sorry. Of those 15 calls, that includes 2 this weekend. We have issued 3 citations already under the new ordinance from this weekend. And we'll continue to work this probably right up until right after the window closes. What we've seen after the window closes, after July 6th, for 2021, after July 5th, we had 18 calls for service till December 31st. That was fireworks. So really, we see a huge drop-off right after July 5th. And we expect that again this year, especially offering this window. So our encouragement is to citizens, talk to their neighbors. If you do have a party planned, if you are going to have fireworks, make sure your neighbors are aware of it. Make sure you use the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th to do that during the times given. So that's kind of, I certainly would answer any questions anybody has about what we've done or what we intend to do.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Lisa, thank you very much for the proactive work. Excellent response.
Okay.
Any other staff updates, Mr. Hughes?
No, sir.
So I would note also Sturgis Falls is this weekend. So enjoy your time responsibly. Have a fun experience. Glad to have it back. Back in place last year, and so continuing it in this year. Look forward to seeing you out there at the parade and hopefully at some of the musical events. And I'll just note for housekeeping at the end, I'll be out July 5th through the 14th for 9 days of annual training with Civil Air Patrol. So during that time, for the first part of it, Councilmember Harding will be serving as pro tem. He will conduct the July 5th council meeting, have full confidence in his ability, and it's part of why I feel comfortable doing this, is that I want council members to have the opportunity to get that presiding officer leadership experience. So he'll be doing that and covering for me up until the 10th. And then I'll be just on my pager and on the phone, ready to answer if I need to come back from the 10th on. So that's why I'll be out. And have a great 4th, since I won't see you in the meantime. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.